Testing one, two. All right. Hey everybody, and welcome back to Cool Beans Hot Stuff. Today is another episode of Mental Health Mondays. And I think the last time I actually streamed was a Mental Health Monday. I think that was last week. All of last week had storms going on all day, every day out here in Tennessee. And then started a bunch of writing classes too, which was cool. But wasn't able to stream for a couple days. So it's been a full week since been back and feels a little weird, right? Kind of feel a little off. But we're going to get back into the swing of things. This week I got a whole bunch of what I feel like are some pretty cool streaming topics for us to talk about. Starting with today's topic, which is dieting and mental health. So we're going to go ahead and jump into that, going with the whole idea of different things you can do to help with your mental health. We have already gone over exercise and its connection to mental health, how exercise helps you think better, be happier, all around live a more fulfilling life, and the effect that that has on your mood, your mentality, your capacity for thinking, all that good stuff. Today, we're going to explore the connection to food. So, I got a whole bunch of good studies for you guys that we're going to look through, a bunch of articles, and we're going to see just how many different ways in which food can affect your mental health. Because spoiler alert, food affects your mental health, right? This isn't this isn't going to be a stream where we read to see if this is true. Like everything we're going to read is pretty 100% positive. What you eat definitely affects the way you feel and the way you act, affects your behaviors, and affects in some cases how well you can actually think. And we're going to go over a whole multitude of ways in which diet can either fuck up your mental health or it can help you out enormously. So if this sounds like fun and you're streaming, let's see, if you're tuning in live while I'm streaming, thanks for joining into the stream. I hope you enjoy it. Hope you like the subject matter. If you're seeing this video on YouTube, then thanks for tuning in too. If you like the content, then consider liking and subscribing as always. Okay, so let's go ahead and jump into it. So first, we're going to start with dieting and just overall connection to mental health. Okay, what does that look like? Well, we got a article from Harvard Health Publishing that's going to give us a quick little rundown on it. And then we're going to jump into all those different ways in which food can either fuck your brain or make you a superhuman genius. Okay, maybe not that, but think about it. Your brain is always on. It takes care of your thoughts and movements, your breathing, your heartbeat, your senses. It works hard 24/7, even while you're asleep. This means your brain requires a constant supply of fuel. That fuel comes from the foods you eat, and what's in that fuel makes all the difference. Put simply, what you eat directly affects the structure and function of your brain and ultimately your mood. Like an expensive car, your brain functions best when it gets only premium fuel. Eating high-quality foods that contain lots of vitamins, minerals, and antioxidants nourishes the brain and protects it from oxidative stress. The waste, also called free radicals, produced when the body uses oxygen. That's what the oxidative stress is. Unfortunately, just like an expensive car, your brain can be damaged if you ingest anything other than premium fuel. If substances from low premium fuel, such as what you get from processed or refined foods, get to the brain, it has little ability to get rid of them. Diets high in refined sugars, for example, are harmful to the brain. In addition to worsening your body's regulation of insulin, they also promote inflammation and oxidative stress. Multiple studies have found a correlation between a high diet in refined sugars and impaired brain function. That's right. All you motherfuckers eating candy out there, you're just stupid. That's what they're saying. They say is I snack on my lemon heads. And even a worsening of symptoms of mood disorders, such as depression. And we're going to get into that in a little bit. I got a couple studies that people have done linking depression to the foods that you eat. Oh, yeah. And it makes sense. If your brain is deprived of good quality nutrition, or if the free radicals or damaging inflammatory cells are circulating within the brain's enclosed space, further contributing to brain tissue injury, consequences are to be expected. I need to eat less of those lemon heads. Eat those lemon heads and my mouth gets all saliva-y. And it sounds gross. It tastes amazing, though. What's interesting is that for many years, the medical field did not fully acknowledge the connection between mood and food. Today, fortunately, the burgeoning field of nutritional psychiatry, get it on the third try, is finding there are many consequences and correlations between not only what you eat and how you feel and how you ultimately behave, but also the kinds of bacteria that live in your gut. And we're going to get into that a little bit too. I'm sure you've heard the term gut microbiome splashed all over your Twitter feed at some point or another, right? Those folks are always talking about drinking raw milk and all that good stuff. We're going to get into that. We're going to dive a little bit into your gut microbiome in case you're wondering what the fuck that even is. So, how food you eat affect your mental health. Here we go. This is what we want. So, the first one is serotonin. Serotonin is a neurotransmitter that helps regulate sleep and appetite, mediate mood, and inhibit pain. Since about 95% of your serotonin is produced in your gastrointestinal tract, and your gastrointestinal tract is lined with 100 million nerve cells or neurons, it makes sense that the inner workings of your digestive system don't just help you digest food, but also guide your emotions. What's more, the function of these neurons and the production of neurotransmitters like serotonin is highly influenced by the billions of quote-unquote good bacteria that make up your intestinal microbiome. These bacteria play an essential role in your health. They protect the lining of your intestines and ensure they provide a strong barrier against toxins and quote-unquote bad bacteria. They limit inflammation, they improve how well you absorb nutrients from your food, and they activate neural pathways that travel directly between the gut and the brain. Studies have compared traditional diets like the Mediterranean diet and the traditional Japanese diet to a typical Western diet and have shown that the risk of depression is 25 to 35% lower in those who eat a traditional diet. That's pretty fucking crazy. That's a quarter to over a third less of a chance of you developing depression if you're sticking with the traditional diet. A little bit difficult to do that in today's modern world. I don't know where you're living. Maybe where you're living, it's easier. In America, you know, at least half of everything you're going to buy in a store is just totally fucked. It's just nothing but it's refined sugars and in color dyes and a whole bunch of shit just confangled and mixed together. And it does taste absolutely amazing, but it's definitely not good for you. Scientists account for this difference because these traditional diets tend to be high in vegetables, fruits, unprocessed grains, that's kind of important, the unprocessed part of grains, and fish and seafood, and contain only modest amounts of lean meats and dairy. They are also void of processed and refined foods and sugars, which are the staples of the Western dietary pattern. Yeah, that's the big one. The refined foods, sugars, we're going to get into it a little bit, but those are the bugaboos. Those are the big ones that are fucking you up. In addition, many of these unprocessed foods are fermented and therefore act as natural probiotics. We're going to get into that a little bit too. All right, well, why don't we go ahead and do that then? Let's pop over here. Nutrition's role in mental health research. Various research studies highlight the connection between nutrition and mental health conditions such as depression, anxiety, and ADHD. A 2014 randomized control study found that reducing inflammation by increasing omega-3 intake could prevent some kinds of depression. A 1993 study on blood glucose levels found that when they systematically lowered human participants' glucose levels, counter-regulatory hormones such as cortisol caused them to feel more irritable and anxious. Eating a diet lacking nutrition causes the body to struggle to regulate blood glucose through a process known as insulin resistance. This can lead to elevated and severely low glucose levels and may contribute to anxiety in some people. That's because the cortisol. I believe we talked about cortisol on the TRT stream, which I think I was going to redo that stream because I had a little bit better data to add to that. So I don't think I even threw that up on my YouTube. So if you're watching this on YouTube and you're like, ooh, where's the TRT for mental health stream? It's not there. It's not there yet. I'm going to be restreaming that, right? So, but yeah, if you did watch that stream live, cortisol is one of your stress hormones that at very high and continuously pinned levels leads to a continuous feeling of anxiety and overall like overwhelmed is what it feels like. It can suck balls. I had like chronically high cortisol there for a really long time, and it does suck a lot of balls. It makes you feel like you're always on like a fight or flight response is what it makes you feel like. 2018 randomized placebo-controlled study hypothesized that providing certain vitamins and minerals to children with ADHD could improve aggression and emotional regulation. The results found a clinically significant 47% of the experimental group improved much or very much compared to 28% of the placebo group. 32 compared to 9% improved in an area of attentiveness. They also saw greater improvements in aggression and the ability of the child to function compared to the placebo group. The bidirectional link between food and the mind. We're not going to go over this entire article because this is a long article. It's a really good article, though. It'll always, as always, it'll be linked in the description, so you can take a look at it for yourself. This is mcleanhospital.org, and it is a really awesome article. We will be going over a few different sections, though, today. So, as humans, our relationship to food is complex. Food can be nourishing, enjoyable, social, and soothing. For this reason, there is a bidirectional relationship between diet and mental health. This means that mood can influence eating habits, and in return, eating can impact mood and psychological well-being. That's that. It can either be a virtuous cycle or a vicious cycle, okay, depending on how you're feeling and what you're eating. When you're not getting proper nutrition, you might feel very stressed in an otherwise mildly stressful situation. As a result, you may turn to less healthy foods for comfort or as a time saver to mediate the feelings. Because this food is less healthy, it further reduces your ability to adapt to stress. This can create a vicious cycle, see, they're copying my words here, of eating foods that can worsen anxious feelings. A similar cycle can happen with depression. You may feel depressed and low energy, so you turn to soothing foods or those that don't require any work. These are often high in sugar and low in nutrition. You may feel worse after eating the foods, perpetuating the cycle of worsening diet and mental health. A 2020 article published in the British Medical Journal hypothesized this relationship in 3 pillars and demonstrated their interconnectedness: a good quality diet, physical health, and mental health. Each of these impacts the other, creating a loop that can lead to worsening mental and physical health as well as diet. Improving mental health with nutrition comes down to breaking a negative cycle. That's exactly what the research shows is possible. A 2019 study found that when people who have mental health challenges increase their fruit and vegetable intake, it reduces their symptoms. Another study in 2022 looked at the effects of the Mediterranean diet on those with severe depression. And we're actually going to look at a very similar study. I don't think it's that exact study, but in this 12-month randomized controlled trial, the intervention group, those on the diet, saw a large 20.6-point reduction in depression symptoms on the Beck Depression Scale. A 6.2-point reduction was observed in the control group, which is the people who weren't on the diet. The Mediterranean diet is built around a variety of whole foods rich in fiber, vegetables, fruits, legumes, healthy fats, and fish. It includes very minimal, if any, ultra-processed food. While this diet has gained popularity, many diets around the world apply similar principles of eating a diet filled with a variety of whole foods and very few ultra-processed foods. Yeah. So a couple different ways in which this can affect you. How food can affect your mood. All right. So we kind of already covered serotonin. Serotonin starts with the gut microbiome, right? Serotonin is called the feel-good neurotransmitter or feel-good hormone. It helps regulate mood, sleep, appetite, and tolerance for pain. It's a target of many antidepressant medications. Those are called SSRIs. I actually have a stream coming up on controversial mental health practices, modern day controversial mental health practices, and SSRIs will be on there. So stay tuned for that. I don't think it's going to be next week, but the week after, I think, is when that happens. To produce this neurotransmitter, the brain must complete several steps inside the gastrointestinal system that require certain nutrients, including but not limited to vitamin B, copper, riboflavin, and calcium. All right. And gut microbiome, all right? Your intestinal microbiome includes billions of beneficial bacteria that can produce certain vitamins when you don't get them in your diet. It can create B1 and neurotransmitters like serotonin. The bacteria in the gut communicates with the brain about what they need from the body to stay healthy. The body tells the gut when it needs to produce more of for various functions. While the link between gut health and overall health has long been assumed worldwide, researchers are just beginning to understand the importance of gut health to mental health. A study at Deakin University gathered information about the diets of 213 pregnant women in their third trimester, as well as a gut microbiome sample. They then followed the new mothers and their children until the age of 2. They found that the women with the most diverse intestinal microbiomes during pregnancy had toddlers who had fewer depressive, anxious, and withdrawn characteristics. Wow, that's an interesting study. My experience with gut microbiome tells me that they must have had a very interesting way of studying that. Which, if you're eating, then close your ears. But they probably had to study the mother's shit, is what they had to do. They probably had to take the mother's dookie and put it through the lab and see what kind of bacteria was there. Could have that wrong though, but knowing what I know from the gut microbiome and tests on it, in general, that's usually what you have to do. This doesn't show a direct cause and effect relationship. However, all studies are building blocks in our overall understanding. Combine this study with serotonin's impact on mood and mental health. This demonstrates the importance of a healthy gut. Consequently, it shows how important it is to maintain a healthy microbiome with nutrition. Another 2019 study targeted the gut as a means to improve outcomes of patients with mood disorders. This provides further support for the importance of nutrition when therapeutically treating mental health symptoms. So, the bacteria in the gut love fiber. If you want a healthy gut microbiome, there's two main foods that I've always heard. Fiber, usually the insoluble fiber. Soluble fiber means that it disintegrates in water or it absorbs into water, and soluble means that it doesn't. I believe, right? Insoluble fiber will be found in broccoli, asparagus, darky leaf greens, beans, whole seeds. Whole seeds, fruit, and peels. Oh, they didn't say nuts. Okay, nuts are usually included in, not for fiber, I guess, but in most lists of healthy things to eat, you're going to have a thing of nuts there. The better fed the microbiome is, the more diverse it becomes. A diverse microbiome is more adaptable and healthier. A less diverse microbiome can easily be overtaken by harmful bacteria, become inflamed, and lack the necessary components to support mental health. And it's worth noting, too, you're going to have a difficult time with your digestion too if your microbiome is all fucked up and out of whack. It's much harder to digest food. Your metabolism can slow down. There is a lot of problems that can be fucked up by it. They didn't go over the second main category of food that you usually see linked to healthy gut microbiome, and that's anything that is fermented. Okay, so kimchi, sauerkraut are both big ones, and then yogurt. I eat a lot of yogurt. Yogurt's a big one. Love me some fucking yogurt. But yeah, eating yogurt every day can be very beneficial for your gut. So a third way in which your diet will affect your mental health is actually through your immune system function. Inflammation is a natural tool the immune system uses to fight threats in the body. Certain foods increase inflammation, primarily saturated fat, sugar, and food additives that the body can't recognize. Had a burp. Current research suggests that this increased inflammation may explain why those who eat a lot of ultra-processed food also experience brain health challenges like cognitive decline, as well as dysfunction in areas of the brain like the hippocampus and the amygdala. The hippocampus helps you maintain stress through the dopamine production. The amygdala regulates the fight or flight response through adrenaline and epinephrine. Most of this research has historically looked at how food that may contribute to inflammation can impact people's physical health. For example, researchers have long known that rampant inflammation increases the risk of developing type 2 diabetes or cardiovascular disease. However, it's become clearer now that this inflammation also impacts mental health. One 2010 study found that those with type 1 or 2 diabetes also have abnormalities in their hippocampus, amygdala, and other brain structures that directly impact their mental health. It's a big deal. And then the last one, nervous system. The nervous system includes your brain, spinal cord, and peripheral nerves. The neural network sends and receives messages throughout the body. These communicate instructions for systems to follow. The efficiency with which nerves transfer these messages depends on the brain's neuroplasticity, which is the brain's ability to create new neural pathways and remove ones that are no longer needed. This allows the body and mind to adapt to changes in the environment or inside the body. For this reason, a poorly functioning nervous system could lead to or worsen mental health conditions such as anxiety, depression, bipolar disorder, OCD, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, ADHD, and others. This complex system depends on nutrients to build proteins and create and maintain nerve fibers. This requires certain amino acids, minerals, fatty acids, and carbohydrates. For example, omega-3 fatty acids can reduce inflammation in the nervous system and are used therapeutically to help manage many neurodegenerative disorders such as Alzheimer's and Parkinson's. Omegas-3 are found in fatty fish like salmon, sardines, as well as plant sources like walnuts, chai, and flax seeds. So there you have it. You can also supplement omega-3. I take a shit ton of omega-3. I think I take 4 grams of omega-3 a day. I guess it's not a lot, but it's a good amount. That's on top of everything else I eat. So there you have it. There's a few different ways in which your diet affects your physical body, which in turn affects your mental health, right? Okay, so let's look at some very specific examples of how this can happen. Okay, hold on. We still had one here. This was a study. We're not going to go over the full study, but it is a nice one. It'll be linked in the description. So this is Food, Mood, and Brain Health Implications for the Modern Clinician. Improved innovative strategies are needed for the prevention and promotion of recovery from mental illness as these disorders leading cause of is the cause of disability worldwide. Okay, I think they left an is out of there. This article will review the evidence linking dietary patterns to brain-based illnesses and provide an overview of the mechanisms that underlie the association between brain health and the food we eat. Considerations for dietary intervention will be discussed, including encouraging a shift towards a traditional or whole foods dietary pattern. And so we're just going to hop back down to the summary here. In order to promote mental health and recovery from mental illness, one could consider encouraging patients to eat a diet that is optimal for brain health. Specifically, this diet would include adequate building blocks for monoamine, perhaps they mean monoamino, I don't know, neurotransmitters, be rich in omega-3 fatty acids, all right, be anti-inflammatory, which omega-3 fatty acids are, foster BDNF production, and support a healthy microbiome. So we're going to hear about that microbiome a lot. While this might seem to be a very ambitious goal, many traditional diets are based on nutrient-dense whole foods and contain all these nutrients. The Mediterranean diet is an accessible template, but is only one example. So we're going to go over the Mediterranean diet and what that is and other traditional diets. By the end of this stream, you're going to have a good idea of how diet affects your mood and your ability to think, and how it affects you in a variety of different ways. And you're going to know how to prevent that too. What changes you might possibly be able to make in your diet if you're experiencing any of the particular issues that a bad diet can cause, right? Okay, so this is just the example that they actually go over up here in the actual study. Let's go. There we go. So Robert was provided with education regarding the importance of adequate nutrition for his mental health and encouraged to make changes to his diet in line with the considerations discussed above. He is glad to hear about steps he can take on his own to improve his mental well-being, and his self-efficiency increases. You work with Robert to find some yada, yada, yada. A few weeks later in follow-up, Robert states that despite not feeling hungry when he wakes up, he feels subjectively better 10 minutes or so after having breakfast. He also introduces nuts as snacks instead of crackers and low-fat granola bars, started packing fruits and vegetables to eat with his lunch. Robert's irritability improves. It is possible that the stimulant medication is suppressing his appetite, and his irritability was due to hypoglycemia. Upon further clinical evaluation, Robert endorses some residual depressive symptoms, and you recommend a trial of antidepressants, yada, yada, yada. Okay. After 6 weeks of treatment with medication and ongoing food intervention, Robert's depressive symptoms have significantly improved. He feels less irritable at meal times, is enjoying spending time with his children more, and is having less conflict with his wife. He is feeling positive about the direction his life is heading and plans to continue to pay attention to his food choices. Helping patients to eat a diet that is rich in brain food, fish, seafood, beans and legumes, leafy greens and other vegetables, olive oil. Drink a lot of olive oil. Not even joking. I drink like tablespoons of olive oil a day. Yogurt, nuts, woo! One for the nut eaters. Can be an effective and relatively simple way to promote mental health and recovery from mental illness that can easily be integrated into healthcare. Possible side effects in food medicine interactions, for example, leafy greens and warfarin, should be considered. That being said, the side effects in the case of nutritional counseling can include increased self-efficacy and improved physical health. 2 more reasons to consider this foundational intervention: talking to your mental health patients about their food. So these folks say, yeah, provably it makes a big difference. So let's see what kind of effects. We're going to look at a couple different effects that the diet has on your body, which in turn impacts your mood. The first one is going to be hormones. Bet you didn't know that, but yeah, your diet can heavily affect hormones in your body, right? Nutrition influences tissue or cellular sensitivity to hormone signals in different ways, by direct or indirect paths and based on dietary patterns or specific nutrients. Identifying connections between nutrition and cellular sensitivity to the hormone signal highlights additional points of leverage where a personalized therapeutic intervention may help restore balance. Hey, Razor, what's going on, man? How are you doing today? I don't know when you sent that, by the way. I just now saw your message. But hope you're doing good, man. Been a minute. Okay, so direct nutritional impact. So this is the direct way in which your diet affects your hormone signaling. Dietary patterns and composition may directly impact levels and sensitivity of some hormones, such as cortisol, insulin, leptin, and glucagon like peptide 1, GLP-1. We're just going to call it that. Yeah, man, good. I'm glad to hear you're doing pretty good, man. What are you up to? You at work tonight is what you're doing? Nice to see you on the stream. Thanks for popping in, by the way. It's been like a week since I've been back, so I wasn't sure if any of the usual people who hop into my streams would be here or not. But I'm glad to see you're in here, man. Hope your night is doing good, and I hope you're having a good day at work, too. So, here's 1, 2, 3, 4 different hormones that are affected by your diet. Let's take a look at how they are, okay? Some studies have reported increased cortisol measurements associated with a higher intake of sodium, often seen in Western pattern diets. While a recent clinical trial found that longer-term adherence to a Mediterranean-style diet significantly reduced fasting morning cortisol levels. So this one says there's a link between cortisol and sodium. Mediterranean diets do require you to decrease sodium in the diet. Mediterranean diets are usually pretty low-level sodium diets, at least in comparison to Western diets. And the reason why a lot of Western diets are so high in sodium is because salt, they use as a preservative in just about fucking everything, man. I mean, everything you can buy on the shelves here has some level of salt in it, it seems like. And not everything. That's like a gross exaggeration. But a lot of shit has salt in it that you just wouldn't expect to have salt in it. It's really crazy. So, diet composition has also been suggested to positively influence pancreatic beta cell responsiveness and subsequent insulin sensitivity. So insulin, that's a big one, right? A 2021 clinical trial found that both a low-calorie diet, split up macro content, 30% carbs, 30% protein, 40% lipids, and a Mediterranean diet, well, 55% carbs, 15% protein, 30% lipids. I'm assuming here lipids means fat is what they're going for there. So 40% fats. Wow. Both a low-calorie diet and a Mediterranean diet were similarly effective in improving insulin resistance and enhancing beta cell glucose sensitivity in patients with obesity after 4 weeks. Oh, wow. So 55% carbohydrates. That's pretty good. Only 15% protein. That's pretty crazy. I mean, I'm bulking right now, and usually 15% protein is a crazy idea to me, right? I eat way too much protein. Yeah, man. Yeah, so what you eat definitely heavily affects your mood. And yeah, we actually got a couple studies here that shows how it actually affects depression. Yeah. Yeah, a lot of times they really don't. Yeah. And yeah, where that was actually, yeah, what we're just talking about, the vicious cycle of not eating correctly, making yourself feel worse, making yourself feel worse, and then because you feel worse, you don't cook good foods, or you eat foods that taste good because you don't, like comfort foods, basically, right? Like your favorite snacks, which makes you end up feeling worse. And then it's just a vicious cycle versus the virtuous cycle of eat good foods, feel better, and continuing, right? So yeah, absolutely. That's a big fucking thing for sure. And yeah, we're going to get into specifically how it affects depression here in a minute. But yeah, you're absolutely right, Razor. That's exactly how it works. Another hormone that it affects is leptin. Leptin is an appetite hormone released from fat cells in an adipose tissue. So adipose tissue is your fat, right? And different foods may potentially increase or decrease leptin sensitivity. So leptin combined with ghrelin. I believe it's ghrelin and leptin are your two hunger hormones, appetite hormones is what they call them here. That signal when you need to eat more or need to eat less. They are what make you feel hungry, right? So having an increased or decreased leptin sensitivity is going to have a heavy effect on how often you feel hungry. Okay. Anti-inflammatory diets such as the Mediterranean diet and others that are rich in plant-based foods and healthy fats have been shown to decrease leptin levels and improve leptin sensitivity, while increased amounts of saturated fatty acids have been found to induce leptin resistance by interrupting leptin signaling after chronic overstimulation of the leptin receptor. Further, an overall decrease in tissue sensitivity to leptin may lead to the development of obesity and the cyclic effect of leptin-induced leptin resistance. So this the same thing works with insulin resistance, right? You just get so much of it, your body develops a resistance to it because it's just got too fucking much of it, which in turn makes you need more of it, which, in this particular one leads to a development of obesity right there, right? So we're even going to get into that too, how your particular body weight affects your mental health, because that's, like Razor said, the foods definitely affect depression, but foods can affect your obesity, which can also affect your depression levels, right? So it's another thing that's added to this vicious cycle. And the last one is GLP-1. This is a gut hormone secreted from the GI tract after food ingestion. This hormone promotes satiation and satiety and plays a role. I can never say that word. Satiety. I understand satiation. I get that word, but satiety, I believe, is how you say it, and plays a role in metabolism by stimulating insulin secretion. Increasing fiber consumption has been reported as one way to naturally boost GLP-1 and support healthy metabolic function. Yeah, virtually whenever it comes to your gut and your diet, fiber and fermented foods are going to be like your go-to, right? So those are all just direct responses, okay? Indirect nutritional impacts, okay? Cellular sensitivity to hormonal signals may be influenced by a patient's physiological state, such as a systemic inflammation and the amount of visceral fat. Nutrition may indirectly influence hormone signaling sensitivity in a manner that is dependent on these stats. They say states. Okay, for example, intake of excessive nutrients, such as high dietary fat, may lead to an increase in mitochondrial generated reactive oxygen species. Okay. In turn, the chronic elevation of ROS, that's that oxygen species, may potentially lead to impaired insulin sensitivity. Another indirect pathway involved in the role of nutritional signals, such as leptin, is the modulation of thyroid hormones. Dietary patterns potentially influence leptin sensitivity and levels, and any resulting drops in leptin signaling may ultimately influence thyroid hormone secretion, though the precise regulatory relationship is still unclear. So, I got another one to add there. That's more of an indirect one, is you need a certain amount of fat because you have fat-soluble vitamins, like vitamin D, for example, is a very important vitamin. Vitamin D absolutely helps control your mood, and that is a fat-soluble vitamin, meaning your body absorbs it via fat intake, right? And if you aren't eating enough fats in your diet, you're not going to absorb a lot of your vitamin D, which is going to have a massive effect on your mood. Vitamin D and soluble fat, saturated fats too, I believe it is, or what is it? I don't remember if it's saturated or unsaturated fats, right? But one of them is better than the other, and one of them is very much needed for the production of certain hormones, right? Like things like even testosterone and things like that require a certain amount of saturated, unsaturated, whichever one it is, fats in order to create. And vitamin D is also used in a lot of hormone creation. So there's a few different ways right there in which your diet can heavily affect your hormones. And how your hormones get affected is heavily going to affect your mood, right? And that kind of, we briefly went over that in TRT. I'm going to redo that stream just because I got a lot more information to add to it. But the long and short of it is that your hormones, what exactly was I saying there? Oh, yeah. So the long and short of it is your hormones like testosterone, estrogen, if they're crashed, you're not making enough of them, or you're having too much of them too, by the way, that can happen too. It will heavily affect your mental health. Okay. It has a massive effect on your mental health. Both estrogen, prolactin does too, as well as testosterone, dihydrotestosterone, and what else is there? Progesterone, pregnenolone. There's a whole bunch of them that just absolutely affect your mental health. Yeah. So hormones, huge effect on your mental health, and your diet does affect your mental health, as does it affect your sleep. So this is another way in which dieting can very indirectly affect your physical health, which in turn affects your mental health. Yeah, no, for sure. Carbohydrates and protein for increased muscle mass. Absolutely. Yeah, I eat a shit ton. When I'm on a bulk, I eat a shit ton of protein and even more carbohydrates. I eat a fuck ton of carbohydrates. Yeah, increased carbohydrates, good for energy when you're in the gym and need to pump out those reps. And then, of course, you need protein to increase, actually build muscle. Protein synthesis doesn't happen without protein. So, absolutely. Yeah, that'll happen. Yeah, when you're not eating good food, when you're sticking on the fucking candy, like I'm very prone to doing because I have a sweet tooth. I love candy. It can absolutely make you feel tired, unfocused, very hard to focus on what you're doing, very unmotivated can be another part of it too. It has all different kinds of crazy effects for sure, absolutely. But yeah, you got definitely got let me just throw it up here so you know what I'm talking about. But you're definitely correct. Why is this not there? It is. When it comes to that right there, increasing carbohydrates and protein for muscle mass. If you're looking to bulk up, you definitely want to have a pretty high protein intake. That's why I looked at that Mediterranean diet and I was like, wow, only 15% of that diet is protein? Like, you ain't building no muscle on 15% protein. I mean, you need to eat a shit ton of calories in. You need to be eating a lot. For 15% of your diet just being protein, like, you better fucking be eating a piss ton of calories in. I mean, just for the sake of increasing muscle mass. If you want to build as much muscle as you can, you're going to need that increase in protein. It's definitely going to need to be a hell of a lot better than 15%. Just for future reference, or not future reference, but just for the sake of argument, just so you can give you an idea of what I'm always, when I'm doing when I'm bulking. Where's my bulk? Oh, here we go. Nope. That's not it. Yeah, if I can't find it, then I'm not going to fuck with it. But usually, no, bulk cycle supplementation. Cut diets. Oh, here we go. Okay. Yeah, my bulk diet is usually closer to about 35% protein, is what I do when I'm bulking up, and then 50% carbohydrates and about 20% fats. Somewhere in that area, right? That doesn't add up to 100%. But it's something similar to that, right? But yeah, that's what I. Son of a bitch. Just spilt coffee on my shirt. But yeah, anyways, you got that. Ace definitely got that right, Razor, for sure. If you want to build muscle, you definitely need to have a high protein diet, preferably higher than 15%. But, we're talking about mental health, right? We're going to run into that Mediterranean diet a lot on this stream. As I was putting the stream together, it was just constant. The Mediterranean diet, Mediterranean diet, Mediterranean diet. There is a lot of benefits to the Mediterranean diet, right? So, anyways, nutrition and sleep. Okay, so the relationship between nutrition and sleep. In many studies, how and what a person eats have been found to impact how long and how well they sleep. For example, diets low in fiber, high in saturated fat, or high in sugar have been linked to sleep that isn't as restorative. Not eating enough fat, carbohydrates, or protein has been linked to less or worse quality sleep. I can definitely attest to that too. When you're on a cut and your diet is really low, like you're like starving yourself. Oh, it's so fucking hard to sleep. It is so hard to sleep when you're on a really nasty cut. Both caffeine and alcohol have been found to reduce sleep quality. Well, yeah, no shit. Especially if taken within 2 to 3 hours before bedtime. Yeah, I mean, I think we all knew that about coffee, right? That's kind of obvious why that one works that way. Alcohol is a very interesting one. That's very true. I haven't pop. I think actually I did. In my EMDR stream, so if you're watching on YouTube, make sure you go check that out. The EMDR stream, we go over how drinking alcohol. Oh, I got a cough. How drinking alcohol before you sleep ruins your REM, your rapid eye movement, which is very imperative for healthy sleep. Oh, I swallowed the wrong air or something. Sodas. Yeah, we're at. Jeez Louise, man. I don't know what's going on here, but got a throat thing there. Just swallowed the air down the wrong fucking tube. But yeah, so as you said, Razor, sodas. We'll have a list at the end of the stream of foods that are like super no bueno, and sodas is on just about every single list. I got like 3 or 4 lists I'll pull up, but yeah. And man, I fucking love Dr. Pepper, dude. Dr. Pepper's dope as shit. I'm a huge Dr. Pepper fan. But yeah, sodas is definitely one of those ones that will definitely make you tired. Yeah, well, now, see, and it depends on how you take your caffeine, too. We'll also look up some lists of foods that help improve your mood, and coffee is on that list. It's on a couple of them, as a matter of fact. So coffee isn't as bad. I mean, still, you chug that before you try to go to sleep. Your sleep's not going to be good. But drinking coffee before you work to help keep you energized isn't that bad. That's not bad at all. Sodas, yeah, sodas are pretty bad, but coffee itself, if you're drinking coffee at work, that's not too big of a deal. Again, it does depend, it is, amount dependent. You can do too much of anything. Too much coffee is going to be a bad thing. But coffee all around isn't too bad of an idea. At least according to these lists that I looked at. All right. They could be wrong. Look, I'm not a fucking expert, Razor. You know me, man. There's times where I don't know what the fuck I'm reading. You see me struggle when I'm reading shit. So, the disclaimer there, I am not a doctor. All right. So, yeah, you don't want to drink coffee or alcohol before you sleep. Alcohol will decrease your REM, which is imperative for your mental functioning. Foods that contain amino acid tryptophan, on the other hand, have been found to improve sleep quality. Well, tryptophan is like an amino acid, is a protein that you actually find in turkey. That's why they always say turkey makes you sleepy, because it has a lot of tryptophan in it. So, very interesting. However, more research is needed to fully understand how a person's food choices impact their sleep. A recent analysis of 26 research studies on nutrition and sleep concluded that there isn't enough evidence to confirm that certain foods or ways of eating impact sleep because of the way most recent research studies on the topic were designed. Instead, the study authors suggest that obesity, rather than specific foods, may influence sleep. So it's kind of like slavery with extra steps, right? If you've ever seen that meme, like the foods you eat are going to contribute to whether or not you're obese. And it doesn't, completely 100% define it. I understand that in all circumstances, but in most circumstances, it is absolutely going to contribute to it. And if you're struggling with obesity, that's going to influence your sleep. So it's like, okay, add a third step in there, but ultimately it affects your sleep. While more information is needed on how food impacts sleep, research makes clear that sleep patterns influence how a person eats and how the body responds to food. Falling short on sleep, which is sleeping fewer than 7 hours per night for adults, so cutie pie, if you're watching, that's you, yeah, may increase hunger and make sugary and fattening foods feel more rewarding, leading to overeating. Wow, that's interesting. I haven't actually ever heard that one. That's news to me, man. Is that right? Right. Chair was caught on my rug. Falling short on sleep may reduce the body's ability to break down sugar, leading to an increased risk of obesity, type 2 diabetes, and heart problems. Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah, no, yeah. Too much coffee will definitely fuck you up, right? Like, if you're drinking way too much coffee, that actually, like we're just reading the cortisol response, coffee at too high a doses, I know, does increase cortisol, which can give you that fight or flight kind of like feeling, right? Make you all, I mean, jittery, you know what I'm saying? That sort of thing. Yeah, right. It is very true. No, absolutely. As Razor says, when you're feeling sad, you eat and you feel good. That's 100%. We're actually going to talk about that a little bit too, because that's a very, very real thing. You're absolutely right. A lot of people do that. You're not alone in that. When you're feeling like shit, sometimes it's nice to just say, fuck it. I'm just going to have my fucking donuts and fuck all the rest of y'all bitches, you know? And yeah, man, it definitely, a comfort food, comfort eating, that sort of thing is absolutely a thing. Absolutely a thing. And poor sleep apparently is a part of that vicious cycle, which I would have never have thought that. So here's a couple ways to eat better for sleep. And we're going to hit another article too that covers this just to get a better and more in-depth. But one is consuming a balanced diet. A balanced diet contains adequate amounts of 3 types of macronutrients: carbs, fats, and proteins. So like I was saying, like me and Razor were talking, the amount of protein, carbohydrates, fats that you eat. We were talking about like bulking diets. I ate like 20% fats, 50% carbs, 30 some percent proteins, right? In terms of carbohydrates, whole grains are preferred over simple carbohydrates and highly processed grains, as they are healthier and may improve sleep. So simple carbohydrates, anything sugar. All carbohydrates more or less break not even more or less. All carbohydrates break down into glucose in your bloodstream. That glucose is blood sugar, right? And any carbohydrate will essentially break down into that, but complex carbohydrates take much longer to break down and have more nutrition in them. Simple carbohydrates like candy, they break down really, really quick, and they don't have a lot of nutritional value. All that's in those lemon heads is flavoring and sugar, and that's it, right? A complex carbohydrate would be like oatmeal. Oatmeal is a very complex carbohydrate, takes a much longer time for your body to digest and has much more nutritional value. Okay, vegetables and fruits are going to be more complex carbohydrates. Even though fruit has fructose in it, which is fruit sugar, right? Okay, it has sugar in it. It doesn't just break down into sugar. There's plenty of micronutrients inside of fruit too. You see what I'm saying? So complex carbohydrates over simple carbohydrates always, right? For the most part, most of the time. Simple carbohydrates do have their place in the world. If you're in the middle of a sporting event, you're in the middle of the weight room and you need just an extra oomph of energy, wrestling, whenever I'm on the wrestling mat, I'm at the MMA gym and I'm like doing a 2-hour session and I just need a quick pick me up. I'll always bring to the gym with me a little bit of candy, usually chalky candies made out of dextrose, like Smarties or Pez. They're both made out of dextrose, and that is a sugar that is very quickly digesting. You eat it and boom, it instantly digests. Another one that would be quickly digestible is the sugars that you have in your Gatorade. That's why drinking a Gatorade will give you a little bit of boost. It helps with the electrolytes too, because you're sweating. Electrolytes are leaving the body. Gatorade can help with that too, but it has sugars in it that are going to give you a tiny bit of boost because of how quickly they digest, right? So anyways, that's where simple carbohydrates might fall into your diet. Studies have also found that consuming too much or too little protein can negatively impact sleep. Oh, that's interesting. We're going to read about that here in a minute too. Yeah, for sure, for sure. Yeah, no, definitely. People have different reactions to food. People have different diets that they react better to. Absolutely, man. It is a very personal thing for certain, hands down. That's very, very true. There is definitely like main rules that everybody can follow, right? Nobody is going to eat lemon heads and survive off the lemon head diet. But aside from those really wild one off things like that, you're absolutely right. Most people have a specific diet that is probably best for them. And knowing how you react to certain kinds of food, like just knowing if you're lactose intolerant, obviously, that's an obvious one, right? Is definitely a big part of that puzzle and a big part of making the correct dietary choices for yourself. So absolutely, man. Good call. Good call. So eat your fruit and vegetables. A balanced diet should also contain ample fruits and vegetables. Eating an adequate amount of fruits and vegetables that is high in fiber and vitamins has also been linked to better sleep. Eat at regular times. The timing of when a person eats meals can impact their circadian rhythm, which also influences when a person wants to be asleep or awake. Eating late at night or within 2 hours of sleep may lead to less restful sleep. Irregular meal times may also impact sleep and are associated with higher rates of obesity. Interesting. Avoid sleep disruptors. Caffeine, the coffee, has been found to disrupt sleep even when consumed 6 hours before bedtime. These fuckers, they just don't want me to drink coffee at all. Caffeine can be found in tea, coffee, soda, energy drinks, and chocolate. Alcohol is another sleep disruptor. Though it may help some people fall asleep faster, ultimately alcohol leads to lower quality sleep, and more frequent overnight awakenings. And avoiding nighttime acid reflux. Okay, that's one for me. I have nasty acid reflux at night. I even sleep on a ramp that keeps my body upright so I don't get that when I lie fully backwards. Acid reflux can disrupt a person's sleep. Yeah, fucking tell me about it. Eating certain foods in the evening may make acid reflux more likely, including spicy foods, fried foods, high-fat foods, and junk foods. Avoiding these foods and avoid eating in the 2 hours before bed may help a person avoid acid reflux at night and the poor sleep associated with it. Amen to that, because, yeah, that always fucks me up, yeah. Yeah, man, for sure. Fructose from, like, sugar, lactose, which is milk sugar, what is it called? Maltose is malt sugar, I believe. And what is a grain sugar? Not glucose. Glucose is blood sugar. There's different types of sugars, but yeah, they're not all equal for certain. Fructose that's found in fruits absolutely is going to be better for you just because it comes in a fruit. And the fruit has micronutrients in it that are really good for you. Okay. If you just take the fructose out of the fruit, like high fructose corn syrup is corn syrup with added fructose, tons and tons of fructose put together in concentrated form. That's not going to be particularly good for you because it's minus all the micronutrients. But you're absolutely right. Like added sugars, man-made sugars like dextrose isn't a particular, you're going to do better eating fruits that have fructose in it for certain, or drinking milk which has lactose in it. Maltose is that a malt sugar? I actually think that's found in like alcoholic beverages, so maybe that's not a good example. But you know what I'm saying? Absolutely, I totally agree. Fruit sugar ultimately is going to be better for you because it comes from a fruit, right? And if you're eating the fruit with it, then you're going to be getting a lot of micronutrients your body really needs. So here's a couple more things for us to avoid just to get a good sleep: fatty or high protein foods. Now this is avoiding this at night. Okay. Because digestion naturally slows when you sleep, going to bed too soon after eating a steak dinner or other high protein foods can lead to disrupted sleep, since your stomach will feel uncomfortably full. Foods high in saturated fats have a similar disruptive effect on sleep patterns. And it's also, I want to point out, or what I've always been told, protein is the most thermogenic of all foods, meaning when you're digesting it, it creates heat. So, the more thermogenic a food is, the more heat it creates when your body is digesting it. Protein is the most thermogenic. There, I almost said thermogenetic. That's not a word. Thermogenic. It's the most thermogenic of all foods. And so it increases your body temperature, has the potential to increase your body temperature while you're sleeping, which, if you know anything about sleeping patterns, you want to have a decreased body temperature in order to get to sleep. So that can be a no-no, drinking a shit ton of protein or protein shakes or eating a bunch of protein before you go to bed, because it's going to increase your body temperature. Spicy foods. Spicy foods can cause painful heartburn that could make it difficult to lie down comfortably. Jesus, yeah, tell me about it, which makes it harder to fall asleep. Heartburn can also worsen the effects of obstructive sleep apnea. Oh, as a backed up acid can create more irritation in your airway. Some spicy foods can raise your body temperature, forcing your body to work harder to cool down enough to fall asleep. That's where we're talking with the protein, thermogenic, right? Feeling too warm in bed may also disrupt your sleep patterns through the night. Caffeine, drinking caffeine, and then alcohol. What to choose instead? Here's all of our alternatives. That was kind of a tongue twister of a sentence. Fuck. If you need a snack before bedtime, consider complex carbohydrates such as oatmeal or whole wheat toast, which digest more easily, at least comparative to protein and fats, saturated fats. Healthy eating habits overall will encourage healthier sleeping patterns, consuming high fiber diets with fresh fruits and veggies, whole grains, and low fat proteins. Low fat proteins meaning fish, seafood, not all fish, but fish, seafood, chicken, that sort of thing. Avoiding foods with added sugars. Hey, what you were talking about. Oh, yeah, sure. That'll definitely do it. Yeah, spicy food isn't good for that. I do fucking love spicy food. I really do. Me and my cutie pie eat a shit ton of spicy food. But yeah, spicy food isn't good for that. And it isn't good for the heartburn either. Absolutely kicks my ass if I eat it before bed. Absolutely. But yeah, honey now is really good. Honey is, there's a lot of benefits to honey. Actually, honey does have micronutrient value that is pretty effective. I actually add honey into, whenever I'm making protein shakes, I add a bunch of honey in just for the added carbohydrates, because it is a simple carbohydrate that does burn really quickly, but it's an unusual one in case it's not like other sugars where it's just absolutely bad for you, right? Honey does have its use in a diet. It really does. So absolutely. But yeah, like what they were talking about, avoiding added sugars, like what you were talking about, good for sleep. Look for foods high in B vitamins, as B vitamins are believed to help regulate melatonin. Foods rich in B vitamins include fish, lean poultry and meat, legumes, eggs, and dairy. A healthy diet can also help you lose weight, which can in turn lead to better sleep and make you less likely to suffer from daytime fatigue, insomnia, and OSA. Yeah, so obesity is linked to a lack of sleep, and it's not necessarily obesity alone. It can also be high BMI. So just having a high BMI in general is very closely linked to sleep apnea, which can really fuck up your night, right? So on that note, we're going to jump into psychological issues associated with obesity. Okay, so the type of diet you eat is going to have an effect on your obesity. Obesity does have an effect on your psychological, your mental health, right? So, continuing education activity. Here is what this study is about that we have right here. Hold on. Nasty nose noises. Obesity is a complex health condition that not only impacts physical health but also has significant psychological consequences. Carrying excess weight can lead to a range of mental health issues, from low self esteem and body image problems to depression and anxiety. The stigma and discrimination often faced by those with obesity can further exacerbate the psychological challenges. Additionally, the health problems associated with obesity, such as heart disease and diabetes, can also take a toll on mental well being. Understanding the psychological effects of obesity is crucial for developing comprehensive treatment approaches that addresses both the physical and mental aspects of this condition. This article will explore the various ways in which obesity can impact mental health and discuss strategies for promoting psychological wellness in individuals affected by this chronic disease. So, we're just going to jump into the epidemiology of it, okay? There's a strong association between obesity and psychological issues, particularly mood disorders like depression. Several key findings from the research around the world. Individuals living with obesity have 18 to 55% increased odds of developing depression. That can be pretty big. That's big. It's no matter how you cut it, but 55%, that's pretty big. While the risk of being classified as having obesity in people with depression is increased by 37 to 58%. So again, your vicious cycle. Obesity can lead to depression. Depression can lead to obesity. If you ever had depression, that is a side effect that a lot of people do report is obesity, a increase in body fat. In an Austrian study, 2 out of 5 people who are overweight or obese or diagnosed with a psychiatric disorder, especially mood, with a psychiatric disorder, especially mood, anxiety, psychosis spectrum, or eating disorders. Okay, so I don't know what that breakdown is, but yeah, 2 out of 5 people. You would want to know, you'd want to be able to compare that to people who aren't overweight, right? To kind of get a better idea of that. The global burden of both obesity and mood disorders, including anxiety and depressive disorders, has increased substantially between 2010 and 2021. So there is a correlation here. Okay, yeah, correlation doesn't always equal causation. We understand that, but there is a correlation here. The age standardized DALY rates for anxiety disorders and depressive disorders increased by 16 and 16.7 and 16.4 respectively during this period. Similarly, the age standardized YLD rates for diabetes, which is primarily driven by the rise in type 2 diabetes and obesity, increased by 25.9% globally. So there is a correlation between an increasing in obesity and an increasing in mental health issues, right? The relationship between obesity and depression appears to be bidirectional. We already read about that. The bidirectional between obesity and depression, we read bidirectional between your mental health and your diet, right? It means they feed each other, vicious cycle or virtuous cycle, and more substantial in women compared to men. In the USA, younger individuals, non-Hispanic whites, and those with higher educational attainment show a stronger association between obesity and mood disorders. The relationship between obesity and depression is complex, with many studies finding depression as a risk factor for obesity, particularly atypical depression. In contrast, others show obesity increases the risk of depression. The impact of the obesity-depression combination on prognosis had mixed results, with factors like depression, subtype, age, and sex influencing the association. Okay, so I just wanted to read that one part so you can see this correlation that they're talking about here with obesity. It doesn't mean everybody who's obese is depressed, but it is very possible, right? This is a good study. This study goes into, more specifically how they can address that issue. But that's the part of the study I wanted to show you where it just shows the correlation between those two issues. So yeah, for sure. Yeah, you don't need to cut out added sugar all the way, Razor. I don't know when you sent that, but I might have missed that. That's my bad. But yeah, I'm sitting here with some fucking lemon heads, and yeah, you don't need to cut out all added sugar by any means, but reducing it, one little bit of a time, really. You know what I'm saying? One little baby step, reducing your sugar, little bit. That's all you really need to do. Hold on one second. My stream looks like it's fine. I had a error message pop up, so give me a second here. Something with my X, it looks like. Oh, no. Okay, we're good. Whatever. Okay. And no. Okay, and we're hopping back. So, those are psychological issues associated with obesity. But just to drive it home, your weight affects your mood. And it isn't just obesity. We're not just picking on you fat kids, okay? Mental health impairment in underweight women. Do body dissatisfaction and eating disorder behavior play a role? So, as it turns out, we're going to look at the psychological effects of being underweight now. And here we have 3 graphs. Let me explain these 3 graphs. Figures 1, 2, and 3 show loss curves of the relationships between BMI and scores on the 3 various mental health tests, respectively. As can be seen, both very low and very high body weights are associated with mental health impairment. God damn it, mental health impairment. And this was the case for all 3 measures. So here's the first measure. This uses the Study Short Form Mental Component Summary Scale, which is a measurement for mental health functioning. Here's BMI on the bottom. Can we make this bigger? Is this thing? Oh, look at that. We got it. Look at us knowing what we're doing. So this is your BMI right here. This is the score on the mental health test. And we're scoring right here, very comparable to the higher your BMI. Notice when we get to this area right here, that looks like this is where BMI, that's where its peak is. This is the optimal BMI score to get for mental health as far as this test is concerned. People who take this mental health test, that actually almost even looks like, I can't click on it to see, but it almost from here looks like it's lower mental health scoring on people who are severely underweight versus people who are severely overweight. So that's kind of interesting. Let's look at the second graph, because there's 3 different mental health tests. Okay, this one shows the same curve, the relationship between body mass index and subjective mental health measured by the Hochul-Breff Psychological Health Subscale. Okay, different test. And here we go. This one is a little different. So this one shows much lower mental health scores on their test. This is the test right here, the mental health score. BMI is on the bottom again. Much lower mental health scores for extremely high BMIs, but you're still getting lower mental health scores and extremely low BMIs comparative to this area right here. That's like 20 to 30 is where you're getting a peak, right? And it showed that on the other test too. And just the last test, or the last graph to look at, another curve showing the association between body mass index and general psychology distress as measured by the Kessler Psychological Distress Scale. Let's take a look at that. Okay. And lower test scores again. And again, it looks like this one looks like that's pretty comparable, right? On the extreme side of BMI and on both extreme sides of BMI, extremely low BMI, extremely high BMI, we're seeing a very similar test score on the K10. Again, around 20 to 30 BMI, you're getting a much higher mental health score, right? So very interesting correlation there. Just wanted to point this out, okay? And then here's all the actual numbers. I'm not going to go over it, but this study will be linked in the description of the YouTube video, so you can go over it at your leisure. But yeah, very interesting stuff right there, yeah? So essentially, like I said, don't want to, I'm not trying to pick on all the people out there struggling with obesity. Being obese and being clinically underweight, severely underweight, are both linked to low mental health scores on these tests, or at least from what that study showed, right? So very interesting. Again, though, that all points to what I'm saying, dog. Your diet matters, okay? Because your diet is going to affect how underweight or overweight or, in the middle you are, right? So yeah, when you see that, that's very interesting, right? But in any case, It's proven what I'm saying. That diet has a quite a big effect on your obesity and being underweight. Both of them seem to have an effect on your mental health. Now, we're going to hit it from a different angle. This is diet and dementia. So I thought this was just interesting. Does a Mediterranean diet reduce the risk of dementia? Remember, this diet has popped up multiple times. It'll pop up multiple times again. We're only about halfway through the stream, excuse me, and we'll see the Mediterranean diet pop up numerous times because it does have a lot of benefits on your mental health. And one of those benefits includes a potential to decrease dementia. So, does a Mediterranean diet reduce the risk of dementia? For most people, following the Mediterranean diet is a good way to ensure a healthy diet, which may be important for maintaining good brain function. One of the reasons that the Mediterranean diet is thought to be beneficial is because it is high in antioxidants from fruits and vegetables. These may help to protect against some of the damage to brain cells associated with Alzheimer's disease. Research has suggested that this may be beneficial to help maintain memory and thinking skills. Studies looking specifically at dementia have been inconsistent. However, a recent large study suggested that sticking to a Mediterranean diet could reduce dementia risk by up to possibly 23%. So I just thought that was kind of interesting, right? And this is a very quick rundown since we're going to be talking about the Mediterranean diet. I'm going to have, there's like multiple pages that we've looked at and are going to look at that accurately describe what a quality Mediterranean diet would look like. But all of that will be linked in the description of the YouTube video. But just so you know, we'll go over it right now real quick. Mediterranean diets are high in fruits, vegetables, and whole grains with moderate consumption of oily fish, dairy, and a low intake of meat, sugar, and saturated fats. Most fat in this type of diet comes from olive oil. Like I said, I drink tablespoons of olive oil. I legitimately do, because it is really fucking good for your liver and it's really high in calories. So like Razor, like you were talking about bulking, if you're in a bulk, drinking that olive oil will help add in extra calories to your diet, right? And healthy calories, okay? So, and let's see, it was unsaturated fats. Okay, I was struggling with that earlier for anybody who's just watching. Like an hour ago, I was like, is it saturated or unsaturated? Unsaturated fats are the ones that are beneficial for the most part. Saturated fats are kind of no-goes, right? Okay. So alcohol is consumed in moderation with meals. Eating a Mediterranean-style diet doesn't necessarily mean eating foods from Mediterranean countries, which is kind of a myth, I guess. A lot of people, for some reason, think that. I mean, not for some reason. I totally understand why they think that. But instead, follow these guidelines. 1. Include whole grain starchy foods in most meals. For example, wholemeal bread, rice, or pasta. Eat more fruits, vegetables, pulses like beans, peas, and lentils. Nuts and seeds. Nuts. Again, us fucking nut eaters. Look at us. We're just fucking killing it. Eat less Eat less red meat. That's a tough one. I'm an American. I'm from Wyoming. I grew up off of steaks and potatoes, baby. For example, beef and lamb, and especially processed meats such as sausage and bacon. That's a pretty big one. Sausage, bacon, processed meats. Your bologna. I love bologna. I get it. Fried bologna, man, on a summer day. Fried bologna sandwich is amazing. But you want to just reduce it, all right? You don't have to kick it to the curb. What's the point of living if you can't have your fried bologna occasionally? But you want to try to limit that shit, and bacon too, obviously. Eat fish regularly, particularly oily types like salmon and mackerel. However, try to limit eating battered or breaded fish, as that is really high in unhealthy fats, saturated fats. I believe that's actually trans fats is actually what you're going to get when you get breaded and battered. I might be fucking that up, but I'm pretty sure it's trans fats, which is a no-go. That's a no bueno. Try to choose lower fat dairy foods where possible, okay? Use vegetable and plant oils for cooking and dressing. For example, olive oil. Olive oil and rapeseed oil. That's a new one. I'm pretty sure they meant grapeseed oil there, all right? So, try to avoid solid fats like butter, lard, and ghee. Okay, limit the amount of salt in your diet. Like I told you earlier, there is a limit on sodium in the Mediterranean diet, which again, a limit in sodium was actually linked to a decrease in cortisol, which is your stress hormone, which makes you feel all fucking like pegged, anxiety, dialed to 11, 24/7, right? So if you want to decrease cholesterol, potentially decreasing your sodium might have a potential effect on that. And as we read, an increase in your cholesterol is bad for your, is not the best for your mental health, or not your cholesterol, your cortisol is not the best for your mental health. It depends on where your cortisol level is. If it's super low, that's not good neither. But if it's very high, in general, like I said, I had high paid cortisol for a long time, and it does feel like you're on like a fight or flight response all day long. It does suck. It's a bummer. So potentially decreasing sodium might do that. Mediterranean diet is a way to potentially decrease your sodium. Try to make sugary foods only occasional treats. Pastries, sweets, biscuits. I'm assuming they mean cookies. Maybe they do mean biscuits, cakes, and chocolate, right? Decrease it, make it an occasional treat. Consume alcohol in moderation, but ideally with food. If you don't drink alcohol, try not to start. Well, that's always good advice, right? So, okay, there's your basic Mediterranean diet. Supposedly it has a effect on your on possible dementia, which is very interesting. And what was this? Hold on, I need to go back up to, are we still on the dementia thing? Association between, here we go. So this is what we were talking about earlier, Razor. Okay, I'd mentioned this. Association between dietary habits and depression, a systematic review. The abstract, depression being the psychiatric condition with the highest societal costs in industrialized nations. Wow, that's very interesting. I did not know that. It is necessary to collect research information on the role of nutrition in depression in order to provide recommendations and guide future health treatments. Observation of healthy dietary practices has been linked to decreased depression symptoms. However, it is unknown whether this is attributable to some or all of the components. The aim of this study was to conduct a systemic review of observational and systematic studies analyzing the association between dietary habits and depression in adolescents, adults, and older people. A variety of non-communicable chronic illnesses and deaths have been linked to dietary and other lifestyle factors such as physical inactivity, cigarette use, and alcohol use. Bummer. I love me some cigarettes. Don't smoke anymore, but God damn it, if I could, I absolutely would. Okay. Now we need to go back to where I was. Results. Okay. And discussion. Okay, here we go. So, results of this study. The systemic review aimed to evaluate the association between dietary habits and depressive symptoms in young people, adults, and older people. We identified 9 studies, of which 5 are observational studies and 4 are systematic reviews. Studies included in this review were conducted in various countries. Our major aim was to find some correlation between dietary habits and depression. So, let's see what they found. Based on the present data, Darmiani, I might be totally fucking up whatever that, I don't know if that's a person, but Dharma Yanni. We're going to say Dharma Yanni. My boy Yanni highlighted the potential of fruit and vegetable consumption in their association with depression in young people and adults, but at the same time, they also emphasized that there is insufficient evidence regarding the effect of fruits and vegetables on lowering the risks of developing depression and depressive symptoms, and they also stated the need for more evidence-based research to be conclusive of the results. While Glabska, though these are the names of studies, okay, I just figured that out. Sue me, all right? I'm slow on the intake sometimes. Argued that there is a link between adolescent diets of fruits and vegetables products and their mental health, and also stated that green veggies, yellow veggies, and fresh fruits were found to be particularly advantageous for the general mental health of teenagers, as did other fruits and vegetables. Okay, hold on, I got nasty noises. The study by Darmiana, my boy Yanni, is also a first of its kind in this topic, and different definitions of depression or depressive symptomology exist because of inconsistency in outcome measures used, which may have been an impact on the findings as well. Both the studies were systematic reviews and show that there is a definite potential for association between fruits and vegetable intake and depression, but still we need robust research on the outcomes to be conclusive. Okay, let's continue. When we take into the diet ingredients, Gibson Smith argued that higher vegetable consumption was associated with reduced depression, anxiety, and fear intensity. Compared to healthy controls, higher consumption of non-refined grains was associated with reduced severity of depression and anxiety arousal, as well as reduced odds of having a current clinically diagnosed condition. That's very interesting. Compared to moderate drinkers, non-drinkers had more severe depression and anxiety and were more likely to be currently depressed. Wow, that's very interesting. I did not expect that. But, well, there it is. Okay. Thus, these appear to be key ingredients of the Mediterranean diet. The Mediterranean diet score revealed that a poor diet was associated with both a diagnosis of depression, anxiety, and more severe symptoms. Total calorie consumption was linked to more severe anxiety, depression, and anxiety depression symptoms, albeit the latter two were not statistically significant when multiple tests were used. Okay. So, total calorie count may not have a whole lot to do with anxiety and depressive symptoms. Therefore, although there are strong correlations between diet and depression and anxiety, the impact of food groups on depression was modest for individual patients but may be clinically important for populations. Overall, the direction of the food group association was as expected. Thus, a higher intake of non-refined grains, vegetables, fruits, potatoes, fish, and olive oil was associated with less severe depression or anxiety, whereas a higher intake of poultry and high-fat dairy products, was associated with more severe depressive anxiety disorder symptoms. Notably, larger intakes of red and processed meat was associated with lower severity scores and the likelihood of a present disorder. Interesting. Since the Mediterranean diet score had the highest relationships, it appears that the cumulative effects of nutrients from diverse food groups is linked to mental health. That's kind of your balanced diet right there, right? It's the cumulative effect of nutrients from diverse food groups. The study conducted by Gregorio, my boy Greg, among Portugal people discovered diet vulnerable strata, males, young age, lower years of education, unemployment, part-time job, domestic working, and island dwelling. Furthermore, poor dietary practices were linked to depressive symptoms when it included a lower frequency of soup, okay, vegetables, fruit, fish, and milk and dairy, less water intake, and a higher frequency of meat consumption. Interesting. Additionally, poor dietary practices are linked to other unhealthy lifestyle behaviors like inactivity, smoking, drinking, reinforcing the premise that behavioral change programs should target many lifestyle domains, right? That is an important point to make. I guess this is an odd place in the stream to make it. This isn't an advocation. I'm not advocating for you to make a healthy diet and you're not going to get depressed. Quit taking your medication and talking to your therapist. You might be suicidal, but if you just eat, a little bit better, eat more fish, bro, stop being a pansy and just eat your fucking fish, boom, you're going to be perfectly fine. I'm not saying that, okay? So that is not the point I'm making here. Disclaimer, I am not a doctor. Eat healthy, and there is a potential that it could help with your depression symptoms, but always talk to a doctor first and maintain whatever protocol your doctor has prescribed to you, all right? But still, this is something to potentially look at that might help, right? And later in the stream, we'll go over some foods to ignore and some foods that you can use that might potentially help, okay? As you've seen here multiple times, though, Mediterranean diet. Again, Mediterranean diet, for fuck's sakes, helps with obesity, helps with, now they're saying it can help with depression, it can potentially help with dementia, it can potentially help with sodium intake, which helps with cortisol levels. It's just, Mediterranean diet. That's why it's the rage. That's why it's every single white person in America is like, Mediterranean diet, because it's pretty good shit, right? All right. So, where were we? I completely fucked that up. To improve the health of the vulnerable strata, health education and multiple health behavioral modification programs should be implemented quickly. The data from the study by JACA showed a cross-sectional population-based investigation supporting the hypothesis of habitual diet quality and high-prevalence mental diseases. In contrast, a diet rich in processed and unhealthy foods, we're up here if you're reading along, a diet rich in processed and unhealthy foods, aka the Western diet, was linked to an increased risk of psychiatric symptoms and disorders. A better food quality score was connected with less psychological symptoms. After adjusting for age, socioeconomic position, education, physical activity, and other lifestyle factors, the associations remains. That's pretty important. So adjusting for all these other, not variations, damn it, it's the V word, all these other variables. God damn. All right. See, I need to eat less red meat. That's what's happening here. I need to get these lemon heads away from me. Yeah. So when controlling for all these other variables, the association is still there. That's important. JACA highlighted the positive relationship between the Western dietary pattern and depressive disorders after adjusting for total energy intake. This suggests that the absolute amount of harmful foods ingested is more important for mental health than the proportion of total diet. It was surprising that a modern food pattern was related to an increased risk of depression rather than a decreased risk. Really, I would have thought that wasn't surprising at all. Reverse causality effects may explain why younger, better educated women with higher scores on the modern dietary component altered their diet to alleviate symptoms. Another argument is that conventional dietary components, including vegetables, red meat, whole grains, and high fat dairy items, are especially relevant to the outcomes. This relationship may also be a type 1 mistake. We are investigating the effects of specific food components on mental health. The study by LaSalle found that there was a significant association between a lower risk of depression in following a Mediterranean diet and a pro inflammatory diet less. Interesting. Okay. Dietary patterns or feeding habits fluctuate from person to person, making it difficult to pinpoint the exact source of the diet that caused mood disorders. Hence, we need a specific plan to figure out the right dietary plan to tackle this problem. Quirk argued that similar themes appeared while analyzing probable reasons for the conflicting findings across research. Despite the excellent methodological quality of most included studies, there was considerable variation in food quality evaluation, depression assessment, and study sample selection. Notable were the varying definitions of quote-unquote healthy diet and the measuring of diet quality and patterns. Okay, so this is kind of going over methodology. Here's their conclusions. We kind of already went over that, what they found. I will lead you to read the rest. This will be linked in the description below, as always, because we're going to hop over Meow. What is this? Oh, I accidentally clicked on that. Okay, over Meow. So what foods are good for helping depression? So here's a couple lists that I can give you guys that I found on the interwebs, so you could find them too. Just click on them. They'll be in the description, of course, as obviously. But here's some foods to consider adding to your diet or potentially stay away from for the sake of mental health, right? So, a 2017 study, we're starting up here for those reading along, found that the symptoms of people with moderate to severe depression improved when they received nutritional counseling sessions and ate more healthy diet for 12 weeks. The improved diet focused on fresh and whole foods that are high in nutrients. It also limited processed refined foods, sweets, and fried foods, including junk foods. Depressive symptoms, including mood and anxiety, improved enough to achieve remission criteria in more than 32% of participants. That's a pretty big fucking number. The researchers concluded that people could help manage or improve their symptoms of depression by accessing their diet. And here is some ways that they do that. I thought this, okay, it doesn't. All right, never mind. I thought this was an article that had a nice handy dandy picture in there because we like our pictures, but it doesn't. 1, selenium. Some scientists have suggested that increasing selenium intake may help improve mood and reduce anxiety, which may help make depression more manageable. Selenium is present in whole grains, Brazilian nuts, some seafood, and organ meats such as liver. Supplements are available for purchase in health food shops. Yeah, I supplement selenium every day. I take a little selenium supplement. You don't have to take a lot, but I always add a selenium supplement into my vitamins. Vitamin D, we talked about that a little bit today. Vitamin D may help improve the symptoms of depression, according to a 2019 meta-analysis. People obtain most of their vitamin D through sun exposure, but dietary sources also are also important. Foods with vitamin D include oily fish, fortified dairy products like your milk, right? Drinking your milk, beef liver, and eggs. Supplements are also available. Again, I eat eggs. I drink tons of milk. I drink probably 6 glasses of milk a day, 8-ounce glasses of milk a day. And I take about 30,000 IUs of vitamin D a day. Vitamin D is a very important one. Again, omega-3, I was harping on that earlier. The results of some studies have suggested that omega-3 fatty acids might help with digestive depressive disorders. However, the authors of a 2015 review concluded that more studies are necessary to confirm this. Eating omega-3 fatty acids may reduce the risk of mood disorders and brain diseases by enhancing brain function and preserving the myelin sheath that protects nerve cells. We did see how it decreased. Omega-3 does decrease inflammation. God, I need to eat more omega-3. See? So you can find omega-3 in cold water fish, such as salmon, tuna, mackerel, sardines. You can find it in flaxseed oil, chia seeds, and you can find it in walnuts. Okay. Or you can take supplements as well. I would also suggest with a lot of these, eating the fish, the flax seeds, the walnuts, a lot of micronutrients in there. It isn't just the omega-3s, omega-3 and plenty of other micronutrients, which is a reason why you do want to try to eat it in your foods, not just supplement everything that you think you need, but try to get in your foods. Here's a big one: antioxidants. Vitamin A, beta carotene, C, and E contain substances called antioxidants. Antioxidants help remove free radicals. We talked about those a little earlier. If you don't know what they are, go back to the beginning of the stream, which are the waste products of natural body processes that can build up in the body. Okay, so now you know what they are. You don't have to go back in the stream. If the body cannot eliminate enough free radicals, oxidative stress can develop. A number of health problems can result, which may include anxiety and depression. The results of a 2012 study suggested that consuming the vitamins that provide antioxidants may reduce symptoms of anxiety in people with generalized anxiety disorder. Fresh plant-based foods such as berries are a good source of antioxidants. I eat blackberries or blueberries, usually blackberries, all day, every day. A diet that is rich in fresh fruits and vegetables, soy, and other plant products may help to reduce stress-related symptoms of depression. B vitamins, we already went over that one too. Vitamins B and B12 and B9 help protect and maintain the nervous system, including the brain. They may help reduce the risk and symptoms of mood disorders such as depression. Symptoms of B12: eggs, meats, poultry, fish, oysters, milk, and some fortified cereals. I'd be careful on the fortified cereals one, but eggs, poultry, that's always a good one. Foods that contain folate or vitamin B9. Leafy vegetables, fruit and fruit juices. I would be careful on the fruit juices. Part of that, a lot of fruit juices have a shit ton of sugar, but fruit. Nuts, beans, whole grains, dairy products, meat and poultry, seafood, and eggs. And you can also take supplements. I take a vitamin B1 and a vitamin B complex supplement. Zinc. I also take zinc. Zinc helps the body perceive taste, but also boosts the immune system and may influence depression. Some studies have suggested that zinc levels may be lower in people with depression and that zinc supplementation may help antidepressants work more effectively. Zinc is present in whole grains, oysters. Definitely oysters. There is a fuck ton of zinc in an oyster. Beef, chicken, and pork, beans, nuts, and pumpkin seeds. There's us nut eaters. That's never not going to be funny to me. Protein. Protein enables the body to grow and repair, but it may also help people with depression. The body uses a protein called tryptophan to create serotonin, the feel-good hormone. Tryptophan is present, we said this earlier, turkey, chickpeas, and tuna. Oh, and tuna. Interesting. Serotonin appears to play a role in depression. We did already go over that. Okay. Probiotics. Foods such as yogurt and kefir, anything fermented, really, I believe, may boost the levels of beneficial bacteria in the gut. There's your gut microbiome. We talked about that earlier, right? You guys are already caught up on all this. We're pretty much saying nothing new. Weight management. Obesity appears to raise the risk of depression. This increased risk may be due to hormonal and immunological changes that occur in people with obesity. A person who is overweight or has obesity may wish to consult their doctor or a dietitian about ways to manage their weight. Okay, so that's always good. We did go over that, right? So here's some foods to avoid. Foods that aggravate symptoms of depression. Alcohol. Very clear link between alcohol and mental health depressions. That is a big one. Refined foods. Convenience foods such as fast food and junk food can be high in calories and low in nutrients. Studies have suggested that people who consume lots of fast food are more likely to have depression than those who eat mostly fresh produce. Processed foods, especially those high in sugar and refined carbs, may contribute to a higher refined carbs, as simple carbs too, or usually refined, may contribute to a higher risk of depression. When a person eats refined carbs, the body's energy levels increase rapidly but then crash. A bar of chocolate may give an instant boost, but a rapid low can follow. Processed oils. Refined and saturated fats can trigger inflammation, and they may also impair brain function and worsen the symptoms of depression. Fats to avoid include trans fats. I told you that, the nasty trans fats, which are present in many processed foods. Usually anything that's fried is going to have some amount of trans fats in it. Usually I don't think that's one for one, but especially if you're talking about fried restaurant or fast foods. Fats in red and processed meats. I believe those are saturated fats. Safflower and corn oil, which are high in omega-6 fatty acids. Yeah, we've seen omega-3s. Omega-3s are good. Omega-6s, I think the thing is people just get too much omega-6 is what I've always heard. It's not necessarily bad for you. Like saturated fats isn't necessarily bad for you, but people just get way too many of them. They are necessary. You do need saturated fats to survive, but a lot of people just get way too much in their diet, and that's when it becomes unhealthy. Caffeine, no, don't attack my coffee, you fuck. At least one study has found that a moderate intake of caffeine in the form of coffee may benefit people with depression. Oh, Good for those people. I like these scientists, whoever they are. Caffeine's benefits could be due to its stimulant effect and antioxidant properties. Are we on? These are on things to avoid. Okay, so caffeine is present in coffee, tea, chocolate, sodas, energy drinks. There is some evidence that small amounts of caffeine may reduce anxiety and boost mood. However, some research has found that it may increase feelings of anxiety, stress, and depression in children of high school age. Well, yeah, don't let your fucking, okay, don't let your fucking child drink coffee, obviously. I feel like that's always been a thing, right? And it affects your ability to sleep, which is not very good neither, right? Like me and Razor were talking earlier, consume in moderation, avoid extremely high contents, again, moderation, and don't do it before you go to bed. Not a good not a good thing to do there, so don't do it. Okay. Worst foods for your brain. Now we're kind of getting into the fun little list portion of the stream where we're just going to go over lists that make you dumb, or lists, foods that make you dumb. So here we go. 1, alcohol makes you stupid. So fucking stupid. You already know this. The amount of people who are in prison right now because they did something fucking stupid on alcohol. Alcohol makes you stupid. Soda and other sugary drinks. This is what you were talking about earlier, Razor. If you want to keep your brain sharp as you age, steer clear of super sweet drinks. Research has found that people who drink a lot of soda, sweet tea, and other sugary beverages are a lot more likely to have memory problems. Ooh, this is probably why I'm so fucking bad at remembering words. These drinks, which often have a type of sugar called fructose, may even cause certain parts of your brain to become smaller. Oh no, I got a fucking tiny brain. So what happens because of all that fucking Dr. Pepper? Diet sodas and drinks with artificial sweeteners. Ooh. That's a controversial topic. So many people say artificial sweeteners, fuck that shit. And so many other people say artificial sweeteners, pour it all over my face. I love it. I love these artificial sweeteners. They're amazing. Fuck you. They're not bad for you. It's turned into a religion on both sides, I swear to God. If regular soft drinks are bad for you, then sugar-free ones are good, right? Not so fast. Research finds that people who sip at least one diet soda a day are nearly 3 times as likely to have a stroke or develop dementia. Scientists think that artificial sweeteners may be the offending ingredient. Okay, I'll let you debate that one. French fries and other fried foods. People who eat a lot of fried, processed foods tend to fare worse on tests that measure their thinking skills. The likely reason? Fried and fatty foods. These guilty pleasures can cause inflammation, which can damage the blood vessels that supply the brain with blood and hurt the brain itself. Oh no. Donuts. We didn't see that. Go, move on. No, fuck. I love my donuts. These tasty treats are both fried and loaded with sugar. Yeah, that's why they're awesome. A bad combo when it comes to your brain health. You get an inflammation double whammy from the deep frying process and the excess sugar. Studies have linked high levels of sugar in the blood with dementia. Even worse, some contain trace amounts of trans fats, another ingredient your brain doesn't need. Despite the FDA's ban on trans fats in packaged foods, they can legally contain half a gram or less per serving. Those fuckas. White bread and white rice. Oh, shit. Good thing my cutie pie is not watching. She would be horrified by that. She loves her white rice. Refined carbohydrates, even ones that don't taste super sweet, can spike your blood sugar. Heartburn. They're attacking my donuts. Really pissed me off. Got me excited. Give me a second. Okay. That's often followed by a crash, which can make you feel mentally foggy. I thought it said floggy. Mentally foggy. Research shows that too many refined carbs may increase your risk of Alzheimer's disease, especially in certain people who are genetically predisposed to it. Go for whole grain breads, brown rice, and whole wheat pasta when you eat carbs. You know, I do love whole wheat bread. Whole grain breads, I'm down with that. I fucking hate whole wheat pasta. It just tastes like fucking shit piled on shit in the form of pasta. Brown rice, a whole bunch of people bitch and piss and moan about this one too, because brown rice has trace amounts of arsenic, supposedly. So you'll go up to people and you'll say, oh, I'm eating brown rice. And like, eat your white rice, you fucking psycho. And you'll be like, oh, Jesus Christ, okay, my bad, you know. And then you'll eat your white rice and you would tell somebody, hey, I'm eating white rice. And they're like, oh, it's a simple carb, you fucking stupid piece of shit. And it's like, oh my God, dude, like, this is turning into a whole thing too. The rice religions over here. Okay, it's not that bad. I'm obviously, joking, but still, yeah, you'll get it from all angles with rice. I don't know what the deal is. Red meat, ooh, this is a good one too because people love the red meat. I love my red meat. I eat red meat. I don't give a fuck about any of this. I'm gonna keep eating red meat. I don't give a shit. You kidding me? But it is high in saturated fat, which is bad for your heart as well as your brain. Again, from what I've heard is, well, you do need saturated fat, you just don't need a lot of it. And, a steak has a lot of it. Okay. In fact, limiting red meat is a key tenet of the MIND diet, a research based eating program aimed at keeping your memory and thinking sharp. Want a protein source that's better for your brain? Fish, lean poultry, and beans are healthier options. Butter and full fat cheese. The creamy taste comes The creamy taste comes at a cost. These dairy products are full of saturated fat. Followers of the MIND diet avoid butter, cheese, and other full fat dairy. When it comes to brain health, low fat dairy is generally the healthier choice. You can get milk, yogurt, cottage cheese, and other dairy foods in low fat forms, and they fucking taste like shit. I just want you to know that, okay? Cottage cheese always tastes like shit. It doesn't matter how much fat is in it. It's always gross. Swordfish and ahi tuna. They are just attacking those Hawaiians, aren't they? You can't have your white rice. You can't have your ahi tuna. What the fuck can you eat, right? Most health experts are big fans of fish, but the kind they love is salmon and other kinds that contain a healthy fat called omega-3 fatty acids. Swordfish, ahi tuna, and other big fish lose points because they tend to be high in mercury. That's a neurotoxin, meaning toxic to your brain. That may lead to higher risk of memory loss and poorer thinking skills in older adults, like the inability to pronounce the word older or word. And last one, bottled dressings, marinades, and syrups. Read the ingredients on the labels carefully. Many of these products have surprisingly large amounts of high fructose corn syrup. That's the same stuff that's in soda. It's linked to a variety of health problems, including memory loss and a decline in brain performance. Try mixing up your own salad dressings instead, and I guarantee you it's going to taste like shit. Maybe not. Maybe you're really awesome. You're like the fucking super bee's knees at making salad dressings. Most people aren't, and when they make their own salad dressings, they taste like shit. But anyways, 10 more of the worst ultra-processed foods for you to eat. So we're continuing the list. Let's see if they say the same things, okay? Energy drinks. They didn't have that one on the list. Oh, who was that? Who made that last list? Y'all done dropped the ball. Who was that? It was WebMD. Oh, well, I probably should have said that earlier. WebMD, good website, but it's not known to be, well, the best thing, in the world. WebMD is very much the saturated fat of the internet. It's good to a certain extent, but you don't want too much of it. Energy drinks. These legal stimulants combine sugars in the form of glucose and sucrose with ingredients like caffeine to boost metabolism and increase alertness. Although energy drinks are said to sharpen our focus and enhance performance, when consumed regularly, they make the heart work harder and faster and may have serious health implications, especially when consumed by children and young people. No energy drinks. This is for your brain, right? The 10 worst ultra-processed foods you can eat. Okay, so this is just in general. Don't eat these foods, not for your brain, but mass-produced breads. You kind of already hit that one, right? Specifically white breads. This is the type that covers most supermarket shelves and is classified as a UPF, as well as the staple bread ingredients, flour, yeast, salt, and water. They typically include additives for the purpose of speeding up the manufacturing process and extending shelf life. Examples include emulsifiers, preservatives, and sugars. Mass-produced bread is said to make up as much as 11% of the calories we eat. So if this is relevant to you, buying the best you can afford with minimal additives may make a useful reduction to the amount of UPFs you consume. Breakfast cereals. Fuck, I knew they were going to attack my Cinnamon Toast Crunch. I knew it. Many popular cereals are classified as UPFs. What is UPFs? Where did we miss here? UPFs, ultra processed foods. Okay, there we go. So some breakfast cereals, well, yeah, obviously. Need a cough. So, because they contain highly processed grains as well as additives such as invert sugar syrup, preservatives, and colorings. Check the label on your cereal to see whether it includes these ingredients. Processing grains like oats and corn reduces their fiber and nutrient content and increases the impact they have on blood sugar and insulin responses, making them a less healthy option when compared to the equivalent bowl of minimally processed cereal such as porridge. Oh, yum. Fucking porridge. That's what they use was porridge. They're like, eat your porridge. You fucking poor. Yeah, Oatmeal is a good example. They should have just said fucking oatmeal. I think this was probably good food. Is this written by somebody in the UK? It might be, because they did use the word colorings over here. So this might be British. So I guess British people eat their porridge. Although some are fortified with vitamins and minerals, certain packaged cereals are low in protein and fiber and high in sugar. Yeah. Hot dog, son of a bitch. Well, we all kind of expected that too. Combination of a steamed and boiled sausage is partially sliced white bun has achieved iconic status. Sausages are one of the first processed foods, with frankfurters, the type used in a hot dog, typically comprising pork that has been cured and sometimes smoked. Current health guidelines recommend we limit our red meat intake to no more than 70 grams per day, due to a potential link with bowel cancer. Wow. Processed meats like sausages are thought to carry a greater risk as they contain additional nitrates as well as high levels of saturated fat and salts. Long-term consumption of red meat and particularly processed meat is associated with an increased risk of all-cause mortality, heart disease, and type 2 diabetes in both men and women. Okay, well, there you have it. And you can't eat your vegan meat neither. You just can't have any meat. You can't have the vegan meat. You can't have the hot doggies. Can't have your chicken fucking nuggets down here, right? Reformulated potato snacks. It's not a meat. But yeah, we're not going to read into all these. Vegan meat, though. The highly engineered products are designed to mimic the texture, flavor, appearance of conventional meat. For example, a clever use of carbohydrates known as reducing sugars, such as dextrose, and colorants can create the effect of a color change from raw red, pink to brown during cooking. Other additives like methylcellulose are used to create a meat-like bite, while carrageenan improves the slice ability when served cold. Jesus, they're just putting... Yeah, so basically they're just putting all kinds of shit in it to fake you out and say, hey, you're eating meat, my guy. You still got your balls. That's what they're trying to do. And it's not working out. So stay away from vegan meats that have all that crazy shit in there to make you feel better about yourself. Chicken nuggets. Okay, so don't eat your chicken nuggets, right? Fuck them about that too. Reformulated potato snacks like Pringles, potato chips, not good stuff. Again, this is just coated in all kinds of trans fats and non-goodness. Margarine. Oh, I didn't know that. Margarine is not good. Unsaturated oils rather than milk fat margarines offer less saturated fat as well as useful plant-based option for those following a vegan or dairy-free diet. Margarines are a water and oil emulsion with added emulsifiers, salt, proteins, vitamins, colors, and flavorings. Low-fat versions have similar ingredients, but with the lower oil content comes a need for additional thickeners and gums to maintain that all-important spreadability. So it's got gum in it. They just pop it right out, throw it in the mixer. You don't want that. Vegan cheeses. Damn, you vegans can't even eat your own fucking cheeses. Often made from a plant source saturated fat like coconut oil, these cheese alternatives rely on the addition of starch, stabilizers, colorings, and flavorings to create a product that mimics real cheese. God, that just sounds so gross. I'm not a huge cheese fan anyways. I do eat cheese, but I sure as shit ain't eating that. They usually contribute little protein and or calcium. They are also typically high in fat, saturated fat, and salt. So it's a no-go. And of course, ready meals. Most of us are short on time, so it's tempting to fall back on shop-bought ready meals. This would be like Hungry Man's. But with convenience comes cost, and not just a financial one. These meals typically contain preservatives and other additives frequently used in UPFs to make them last longer and look and taste good. So, no Hungry Man's for you. Don't eat those. All right, and we're going to go down. I got another list, a big one. We're not going to hit this one. I love this website, Eat This, Not That. Great fucking website. It'll be linked in the description. It's really good for all kinds of diet-related stuff. I use this website regularly to help me calculate calories when I'm calculating my calorie intake on a cut. We're going to go through the 100 unhealthiest foods on the planet. And judging by the look of this right here, it's pretty much everything I eat. We're going to go through just the top 10, right? Because I'm going to get too depressed if we go through all 100. I'm not going to be able to eat anything anymore. Potato chips, number 1. Okay, we already read that. Potato chips are bad, no good, no bueno, don't eat them. Ice cream, of course they're going to have ice cream on here. Too much sugar. When it's time to cozy up on the couch after dinner for your favorite show, a pint of ice cream may be your dessert of choice. While some pints might not be all that bad, most popular brands come loaded with more added sugar than the 25 to 30 gram limit that is recommended. For instance, a popular choice from Ben & Jerry's, Chubby Hubby, contains 27 grams of added sugar per 2/3 cup serving and a whopping 82 grams per pint. Knowing how easy it is to finish off a pint in one sitting, this ice cream can quickly give you 3 days worth of added sugar. So that's a shit ton of sugar. Fear not, ice cream lovers. Even though many popular pints on the market are full of sugars, plenty of brands are making healthier ice cream. So, well, that's good, I guess. Processed red meats. Okay. This is your sausages, your salamis, your bolognas, right? So, not good. Not good stuff. And this is specifically processed red meat. Okay. Not red meat all the way processed. Oh, instant ramen. Of course, they're going to put that. God damn it. So there goes half my diet right there in that one fell swoop. Extremely high levels of sodium. God, that's why it's so good, though. So much salt. There's much to be adored about instant ramen. It's cheap, delicious, and comforting after a long night out or on a cold, wintry night or after you've gotten shit-faced. But if you're a ramen lover, be careful of the brands you choose, as this food is often riddled with sodium, sometimes more than half of our daily recommended limit, like the 1,620 milligrams you'd get in a serving of Nissan Top ramen. So go get your organic ramen, I guess, if you want that instead. Store-bought cakes. Well, I figured that was bad. I don't think anybody is surprised with that one. Large amounts of added sugar, artificial colorings, and preservatives. Yeah, no bueno. Crackers. Refined flour with very little to no fiber, artificial colors, and preservatives in some brands. I do love me some saltines. Really high level sodium content. I know, I don't give a shit. But, yeah. Okay, these are the Ritz Bits cheese cracker sandwiches. Are marketed as containing real cheese. But the ingredient list consists of cheddar cheese powder, leavening, I don't even know what that is, palm oil, and sodium phosphate, which is an additive that has been linked to accelerated aging and vascular damage. Oh no, oh no. It's no good. Damage to your vascular. Oh, tortilla chips. They're just killing us here. High levels of sodium, low levels of fiber, artificial colors. Good old fucking tortilla. What? Pretzels? Son of a bitch. It's just everything. Refined flours, high amounts of sodium, and a lack of fiber and protein. Pretzels have the opportunity to be a healthy snack, with plenty of brands making nutrient-rich options for their customers. However, there are just as many brands out there that make pretzels that contain white refined flour and are high in sodium. A serving of extra salt splits from Unique Snacks, for example, contains almost 1,000 milligrams of sodium. Oh, good gosh. Yep, well. Bread bowls, okay. Wow, that's an interesting one. I would have never thought that, but bread bowls, all you hipster bread bowl lovers, and packaged cookies, yeah. That's okay. Y'all can keep your packaged cookies. I don't need that shit. And your bread bowls. You're all weird with that. When you're craving cookies, you're better off making some from scratch. Yes, it takes more effort, but you have the time. If you have the time, you'll be able to avoid the artificial flavors and colors hiding in your favorite store-bought cookies, such as Oreos. Yeah, I'm not really big on store-bought cookies anyways. I don't really like that shit. So there's a whole nother 99 of these bitches if you feel like depressing yourself and knowing that and basically ripping your whole entire diet apart. So good luck with that. I'll link it in the description. Have fun. So this is Good Mood Foods. What to eat for mental health. Okay, so we've been banged over the head now with what you can eat. Let's look at what you can eat. The connection between diet and mental health is stronger than you might think, says Jaquito Jorge, a weight management specialist and bariatric surgeon with Piedmont Weight Management and Bariatric Surgery in Augusta. What you eat not only fuels your body, but also significantly impacts your mood, energy levels, and overall mental health. We already know this, Jorge. Tell us what we don't know. The gut-brain connection. We've already been over that. Anti-inflammatory foods for a better... Okay, hold on. Let's look at the gut-brain connection. I think we already went over this, but we'll just hit it again for you guys. So, a healthy gut microbiome supported by probiotics and fiber-rich foods is critical to mental health. Consuming fermented foods like yogurt, kimchi, sauerkraut, kefir can improve gut health and, in turn, boost serotonin production. Anti-inflammatory foods for a better mood. Chronic inflammation has been linked to depression and other mental health disorders. Anti-inflammatory foods such as fatty fishes like salmon, berries, leafy greens, nuts, just flying everywhere, seeds, turmeric, and ginger can help reduce inflammation. The role of plant-based whole diet foods. Okay, Dr. Jorge says plant-based diets rich in fruits, vegetables, whole grains, nuts, and seeds provide essential vitamins, minerals, and antioxidants that protect brain cells from oxidative stress. That would include folate. Remember, I believe that was B9, found in leafy greens and legumes. Folate supports neurotransmitter production. Vitamin C, found in citrus fruits and bell peppers. Vitamin C helps combat stress by reducing cortisol levels. And magnesium, found in nuts, nut eaters. Magnesium promotes relaxation and better sleep. That's right. If you have trouble sleeping, a good magnesium supplement can always help with that. Or you can eat your nuts. Just eat your nuts. Foods to limit for mental health. So here's foods that you don't want to eat. We already kind of went over that, but processed foods, right? We already know that. Sugary drinks, soda, right? Saturated fats found in red meats and processed meats. No bueno. Practical tips for eating for mental health, okay? Balance your plate. Include lean proteins, whole grains, healthy fats, and plenty of vegetables at every meal. Hydrate. Dehydration can lead to fatigue and concentration issues. Yeah, drink a lot of water. Nobody said that yet, but that is good. Jorge, my man, Dr. Jorge, bringing it in with the good stuff. Avoid blood sugar swings. Pair carbohydrates with protein or healthy fats to stabilize blood sugar levels before the day. That's always good advice, too. Yeah, if you're going to eat a lot of carbohydrates, eating it with some meats and some fats really helps the digestion process, so it's not an immediate swing in your blood sugar. And plan ahead. Meal prepping can help ensure you have nutrient-dense options readily available for busy days. That's always good advice too, Jorge. Good job. Okay, 5 foods linked to better brain power. Here we go. This was the one that had the nice visuals. We like our visuals, yeah. So 1, green veggies. These are foods for, brain power. So help you think. Leafy greens such as kale, spinach, collards, and broccoli are rich in brain-healthy nutrients like vitamin K, lutein, folate, and beta-carotene, vitamin A. Research suggests these plant-based foods may help slow cognitive decline. Your fatty fish. Fatty fish are abundant sources of omega-3 fatty acids, healthy unsaturated fats that have been linked to lower blood levels of beta amyloid, the protein that forms damaging clumps in the brains of people with Alzheimer's diseases. Berries. Flavonoids, the natural plant pigments that give berries their brilliant hues, also help improve memory. Look at that. Coffee and tea. I told y'all this was going to be on here. I am vindicated. Coffee and tea might offer more than just a short-term concentration boost. In a recent study, participants with higher caffeine consumption scored better on tests of mental function. Did that get stuck in my beard? Yeah. No. Okay. And walnuts. Nuts are excellent sources of protein and healthy fats, and walnuts in particular might also improve memory. Walnuts are good. I like walnuts. Okay, so there's 5 foods that can help with improving mental capacity. We're going to keep at it. 9 healthy foods that lift your mood now. That last one was foods that make you smart. Okay, we already looked at foods that make you stupid. Now we know some foods that make you smart. Here's some food. We looked at foods that are bad for your depression or make you depressed. Now we're looking at foods that lift your mood, make you happy. And they're going to be more of the same stuff. Fatty fish like salmon and albacore tuna. Dark chocolate. We haven't seen this one yet. Chocolate's been getting kind of a bad rap lately, yeah? Dark chocolate may improve mood by releasing a cascade of feel-good and health-promoting compounds, including polyphenols, flavonoids, vitamins, minerals, and oleic acid. So that's kind of interesting. Yeah, it is best to opt for dark chocolate. That's important, which is higher in flavonoids and lower in added sugar than milk chocolate. You should stick to 1 to 2 small squares of 70% or more cocoa solids at a time since it's a high-calorie food. And fermented foods. We already went over that again. Kimchi, yogurt, kefir, kombucha. I keep forgetting kombucha. And sauerkraut. Yeah. Bananas. Oh, look at that. Bananas are high in vitamin B6, which helps create feel-good neurotransmitters like dopamine and serotonin. One ripe banana provides 18 grams of sugar and 5.3 grams of dietary fiber. When paired with fiber, sugar slowly releases into your bloodstream, allowing for stable blood sugar levels and better mood control. Blood sugar levels that are too low may lead to irritability and changes in mood. Pairing bananas with a healthy protein or fat may also help slow absorption and steady glucose levels. For example, bananas and peanut butter are adding a banana to a balanced breakfast. Interesting. Did not know that. Hold on. That's actually what I was eating for breakfast last week. Banana and then bread with peanut butter on it. So look at me. Know what I'm doing. Oats. Oh, we haven't seen this one yet. How crazy is that? Nobody has mentioned like oatmeal, right? Everybody is mentioning porridge, but no fucking oatmeal. Oats are an excellent source of fiber, providing 10 grams of dietary fiber per 100 gram serving of rolled oats. A 2019 study of postmenopausal women suggests that higher dietary fiber intake is associated with a higher reported mental health quality of life, which includes depressive symptoms. Oats are also a great source of iron, and iron deficiency anemia, one of the most common nutrient deficiencies, has symptoms that include fatigue, sluggishness, mood disorders. It's a bummer, for sure. And berries. We already went over berries, nuts and seeds. I've been raving about the nuts this entire time. Oh, they have tryptophan. Look at that. I didn't realize that. So tryptophan, right? We have amino acid that turkey has. Also in almonds, cashews, walnuts, pumpkin seeds, sesame seeds, and sunflower seeds. I got to give me some sunflower seeds. That sounds so good. Nuts and seeds are components of the Mind and Mediterranean diets. We kind of already talked about the Mediterranean one. And the link, how that links to depression. That's a pretty big link. It gives you zinc and selenium. There you go. Coffee. Already talked about coffee. I'm pretty excited about that. I told you that we were going to see that twice in there. Beans and lentils. Okay, beans and lentils are high in fiber. They're a plant-based protein and an excellent source of B vitamins. We already know about what B vitamins help with. They do serotonin, dopamine, GABA. Low levels of these B vitamins, especially B12, B6, and B9, folate, have been linked to mood disorders and depression. So you want to eat them beans. Okay. And just to kind of top it all off before I bounce, let you guys go, because I need, we already went over that, because I need to actually go shopping, grocery shopping, get me some foods, because I'm outski of foods. I'm out of candy, so I need to get that. 3 diets that have beneficial effects on human cognitive function. Number 1, Mediterranean diet. So we already went over that one multiple times. This study will be linked in the description as always. We're not going to go over it too heavy, but Mediterranean diet. 2, the DASH diet is intended to prevent high blood pressure. Over the years, it has also become a subject of interest to scientists who study cognitive function. Interesting. Interest in the DASH diet stems from the proven relationship between blood pressure and the proper functioning of cognitive function. The proper functioning of cognitive function. Okay. Some studies suggest that hypertension and hypotension affect cerebral perfusion and consequently different cognitive domains. Interesting. Okay, so DASH diet and the Mind diet. This was that one that's super low in meat, but it was specifically made for cognitive function. The Mind diet is a combination of the Mediterranean diet and the DASH diet. It was created to reduce the risk of developing cognitive disorders, including Alzheimer's disease. The Mind diet, as well as the Mediterranean diet and the DASH diet, are based on plant-based foods. Some of the sentences in here, based on plant-based foods, improves the functioning of the cognitive functioning. But there you have it, though, right? So those 3 diets are good places to start, and there's a write-up on each one in here, and they even go through the exact things that you eat in the diet right here. So if you're interested in either of those 3 diets, I highly recommend checking it out in the description to the video. And lastly, what does the APA just recommend for boosting mental health through better nutrition? The APA and the American Society for Nutrition, ASN, the APA, by the way, is the American Psychiatric Association, are partnering to highlight the interconnectedness of nutrition and mental health. To learn more about how the public views diet and mental health, APA conducted a poll between March 16th and March 17th, 2023, among a sample of 2,200 adults. And what they found was 2/3, or 66% of adults surveyed, said they feel knowledgeable about the relationship between diet and mental health. Oh, yeah, you think so? Okay. 4 in 5 adults would be willing to change their diet in a way that positively impacts mental health. 4 in 10 would be very willing to change their diet to improve mental health. Okay, that's all good and well, but I don't think that was actually what I wanted to read. Yeah, this was what it is. A study published in Current Development in Nutrition and led by ASN member Jessica Bays assess the effects of the Mediterranean diet in treating moderate to severe depression among males aged 18 to 25. The Mediterranean diet, based on eating patterns from people in the Mediterranean region, includes more fruits, veggies, fish, whole grains, and healthy fats, poly and monounsaturated fats found in olive oils, nuts, and seeds. Study participants had all been diagnosed with major depressive disorder and were divided into a diet intervention group and a control group of 12-week parallel group randomized controlled trial. The diet intervention group received nutritional counseling and assistance in meal planning to adhere to the Mediterranean diet. The diet intervention group showed significant improvements in depressive symptoms with a mean reduction of 20.6 points. I think we already actually discussed this study. I think it was supposed to be in another part of the stream that I added it, but there you go. What they recommend is Mediterranean diet. That's what we're getting at. And so I will leave you with that. There you have it. There is my first day back after a week gone. One more Mental Health Monday in the bag. And there's dieting and the connection between mental health. So I hope you guys learned something. I hope that kind of improves your understanding of how your diet can mess with your head or make it better. You know, you have a couple different options for different diets you can go at, good lists of foods to stay away from and foods for you to start eating, and a whole list of problems that can be associated with your diet that are in turn associated with your mental health. So I think we covered the topic pretty well. I think we did a good job. Maybe we'll come back a second time, read some more articles. You know, I always like to come back. If this particular video does well on YouTube and people seem to be interested in it, then I always come back for a second go around, add a little bit more context and a little bit more information to what we already know. But we'll save that for another day. I'm good to go. It's time for me to go get some food and then go shopping. So I'm going to do that. To everybody who watched live, thank you for tuning in and participating. Razor, I always appreciate you coming in and sharing your thoughts with me. So if you're still there, thank you very much for tuning in again, especially after a week of me not being here. I really appreciate that. To everyone else who is watching on YouTube, I hope you enjoyed the content, found it enjoyable, informative. If you did, then please leave a like, consider subscribing to the channel, and checking out my next Mental Health Monday, which will not be next week because next week is my week off. It will be the week after. I will be coming back with a stream. My favorite motivational speakers. Right. I was going to do that. That ended up getting derailed when I did that stream. So we're going to hop back and try it again. So that'll be here in 2 weeks. I will be back tomorrow. For Terrifying Tuesdays, we'll be going over Arizona myths and legends. I've been stoked for that stream. It's one of my faves. So we're going to check that out tomorrow. So everybody who tuned in, I really appreciate it. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your night, and I will see you tomorrow. Peace.